Hey everyone, and welcome back to Rank and File Sports with Jonah and Connor. Today we're going to be continuing our scheduled previews with the Florida Gators. We will be previewing every Power 4 team as well as a few Group of 5 teams, so please make sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss out on your favorite team's video as well as our official game-by-game predictions over the summer. Taking a look at the schedule for Florida, starts off pretty easy, but then gets into the heat of things with the SEC schedule, as well as a trip to Miami in the non-conference. Overall, a lot of games stick out here with LSU, Miami, Texas, Texas A&M, Georgia, and Tennessee. This is going to be a tough schedule for Florida. Uh, Overall, you got 6 games at home, 5 away. The neutral site matchup with Georgia. This is going to be a schedule difficulty of 9.5 out of 10. A brutal schedule for the Gators this season.
Yeah, an absolute gauntlet of a schedule. Starts off pretty easy though with Long Island. They got one thing right. This game is gonna be long for them. 100% chance for the Gators in this one. I think the Gators might hang 70 points on them. I don't know a thing about Long Island, but I do know that DJ Lagway is going to be a stud next season. I think he's going to make the jump next season with a full year under his belt. He's going to stay healthy and he's going to lead the Gators to a great season, starting off with a 100% chance against Long Island. Following week, an in-state rivalry against USF. The Bulls have had some success in past seasons, but it seems to be behind them for right now. The season 2 years ago, where they were giving Alabama and Jalen Milroe trouble in the third game of the season, doesn't seem like that's the team we're going to expect for the 2025 season. So 100% chance for the Gators in that one as well. Then on the road to Death Valley against LSU. Very interesting game here. Obviously, LSU is returning Garrett Nussmeier at quarterback, who is expected to be the Heisman frontrunner, or at least he would be my Heisman frontrunner. It's going to be a difficult one for Florida, considering it is the third game of the season. You're going to one of the hardest places to play in college football. But I think this team is built to beat good teams, especially in the SEC. I think DJ Lagway is going to lead an explosive offense, and I do think the defense is going to make some strides. I think LSU might feel some of the pressure and also have to deal with losing some key guys on offense. LSU's biggest thing last season was they had some of the fastest players in college football, both at running back and at wide receiver. I think they're returning one or two of them, but they will have to replace some of their wide receiver room, which obviously, as we've seen year in and year out, they are one of the premier destinations for wide receivers in college football. But all that being said, we're going to give Florida a slight edge in this game with about a 55% chance to go into Death Valley and get a win from the Tigers. Should be a very interesting game, though. Coin flip this early, but we shall see when this game rolls around in September. Following week, another in-state rivalry game, this time at Florida, Miami. Should be a decent game. Carson Beck is obviously the big story for Miami, transferring in from Georgia after a somewhat lackluster season, especially in terms of protecting the football. Some of his highest career interceptions and just overall turnovers, but they're bringing him to fill the void of Cam Ward leaving for the NFL draft. Should be a good game, giving Florida a 55% chance in this one as well. I do think DJ Lagway will be a better quarterback than Carson Beck, but Carson Beck does have a lot more starting experience. And if he does revert back to his old form from Georgia 2 seasons ago, I could see Miami being a decent team, but for right now, I like this Florida team to get a win at Miami and maybe start the season 4-0 going into their first bye week.
After that, it's going to get a lot tougher. You got Texas at home. Arch Manning starting for the Longhorns this season, and he has been hyped up a lot over the past season when he was just a backup quarterback, especially this offseason. So that's definitely going to be a really good game. I wouldn't count Florida completely out of this one. I don't think that Florida is getting enough hype at like they deserve more, especially compared to what Texas is getting. Yes, Texas was in the semifinals last season, but I do think that Florida deserves to be at least considered as a possibility of winning this game. We have them at about 35% chance to pull off a massive upset. After that, you got Texas A&M on the road. This is going to be a pretty tough game for the Gators. I do think talent-wise, they're going to be pretty similar. And when it comes to the quarterbacks, I like DJ Lagway a little bit more than Marcel Reed. So we are going to give Florida an advantage here on the road against the Aggies at about 60%. Next up, you got Mississippi State at home. That's going to be a 90% chance for Florida to win. Mississippi State is just not a good team. They were bad last year. They're going to be bad again this season. After that second bye week, you have Georgia. This one is a neutral site game, and I think it's going to be a really, really good game. Last season, the Bulldogs were almost able to lose this game. Uh, Carson Beck did not play well there. And DJ Lagway, if he hadn't got hurt, probably would have led Florida to a huge upset over Georgia and possibly ruined their college football playoff hopes. So we have this at about a 40% chance for Georgia to win or for Florida to win. I don't think this is necessarily Florida deserves to be favored, but they should be considered as having a chance to win this game. And then at Kentucky should be a pretty easy one. Kentucky was terrible last year, kind of like Mississippi State. They're probably going to be pretty bad again this season. So an 85% chance for Florida to win.
After that trip to Kentucky, they will be on the road again to face Ole Miss. Ole Miss is an interesting team for next season. A lot of people are thinking they will figure it out, especially with the departure of Jackson Dart at quarterback, along with some other key players. We're not very high on them. At this point in the season, maybe they'll have it figured out. I know they have a couple guys that they're really excited to get into the program and build a team around. But despite that, I don't think they're going to be able to compete for at least half the season. And by this point, I think Florida and DJ Lagway, keep saying his name, are going to be in a big rhythm and they're going to be able to go to Ole Miss and get a victory, giving them about a 75% chance in this game just because Ole Miss will be the home team and maybe they do have it figured out, but so much can change from now until that game, especially with Ole Miss figuring out who they're going to have as their quarterback for next season. The following week is a home game against the Tennessee Volunteers. This is a very intriguing game as well. Nico Amilava is the quarterback for Tennessee. Had a great freshman season last year, made the college football playoffs, did end up losing to Ohio State in that first round, but showed a lot of promise throughout the season, especially in that Ohio State game using his legs. So if he can develop at Tennessee, I think he can be a very good quarterback. I do think there's going to be a lot of rivalry between Nico Iamaleava and DJ Lagway, considering they're both the same age. But it's it's so hard for me to pick against Florida in this one. I do think it'll be a competitive game, but Tennessee is losing James Pierce Jr. at the defensive line, Dylan Sampson at running back. They need to replace a lot of guys that were difference makers last season. I think Florida is once again going to be in a good stride right here to close out the season. I think they're going to win this game against Tennessee. I'm giving them about a 60% chance in this one. And then to cap off the season, another in-state rivalry against Florida State. Florida State obviously coming off a abysmal season after previously under Jordan Travis as their quarterback, possibly looking at a college football playoff berth, some saying they got snubbed, and then getting dog walked by the Georgia Bulldogs in their bowl game. Thomas Castellanos is coming in at quarterback, looking to right the ship. I don't know how much he will be able to do. Florida State's obviously recruited some pretty good guys, getting some good transfer portal acquisitions, but I think they're maybe a year or two out from really taking the leap forward and getting back to where they were 2 seasons ago. I think Florida is just going to be the better team in this one. We're giving them an 80% chance in this game to finish off the season with a win.
Yeah, looking at the schedule overall here, there's a lot of tough games on here, but I don't know. I really like DJ Lagway. I really feel like Florida is going to make some strides this season, and I honestly think that they can maybe get away with 2 or 3 losses despite this being a really difficult schedule.
Yeah, we're so high on this team. It might come back to bite us in the butt a little bit if this team flops, but I think they're able to make that leap and be a really competitive team. It will be interesting to see which games they lose and by how much, because if they lose 3 games, let's say to like Texas, Georgia, and LSU, who all might end up being top 10 teams by the end of the season, do they still have a case for the college football playoffs? And if they were to somehow win all those games or only lose one of them, I would pick them instantly to win the national championship if they were able to beat so many of these good SEC teams. But it's gonna be an uphill battle essentially from week 3 onward. You're not gonna have very many breaks. This Florida team's going to have to be resilient. If DJ Lagway stays healthy, I could see this team going 10-2, maybe even 11-1. It's gonna be an awesome year to be a Florida Gators fan.
Yeah, I don't know about 11-1. That might be pushing it just a little bit. But
I could be optimistic.
I like their chances against Georgia at least. I think they might finally get a win in that rivalry there. But as far as our official way too early prediction, we're going to go with 10-2. Now, if you look at the record from last year, they did go 8-5. We think they're going to improve on that. The projection from our percentages is 8.35 wins. So we're going to go a little bit over that. The crazy one is the Vegas over under, which is set at 6.5 wins. Now they are minus odds to go over that 6.5, but Vegas is basically saying they think Florida is going to go 7-5. I get that the schedule is difficult, but I do not think that they are respecting this Florida team as much as they should. And personally, I will be taking that over in a heartbeat because I do think that Florida is without a doubt going to get at least 7 wins. I'd be shocked if this team didn't. I mean, if DJ Lagway gets hurt in the first game of the season, maybe not. But other than that, barring any catastrophic injuries, I do believe this is going to be a really good Florida team this season. So, thank you guys so much for watching. Please make sure to like and subscribe, and we'll see you in our next video.